It's April 17th, 2020.
This is Nerd Bourbon episode 150. I'm Seth Sturgill.
And I am Todd.
And I am Todd. Oh, God bless. So you may have heard the new intro theme. Well, not you may have heard. You almost certainly heard, unless you're unless you just like skip through the first like 30 seconds.
30 seconds, yeah.
Instantly. You heard a new intro theme. We, it's one of those things, Todd, where every 50 episodes or so,
You got a new coat of paint.
I like to kind of reinvent in some ways. I feel like every 50 episodes, it's worth looking back and, getting yourself a new identity a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we've used this theme, the same old theme, since the very beginning of the show for almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
So it was kind of time. I've wanted to have a new theme song for a while. I've loved that theme song that we've used for a long time, but the reality is, it wasn't truly ours. It wasn't like a 100% original song.
No.
It was made by somebody else, a guy named Captive Portal, independent artist based out of Chicago. And it's one of his songs that he makes freely available. I got permission from him to use it from the beginning.
I've heard it being used before by other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wanted something that was completely uniquely ours. So I went on Fiverr and commissioned somebody to make a completely original intro tune for us, and that's what you're hearing from now on. And I really, really like it a lot. I'm really happy with it. I think it's gonna give us some new energy. I think it's gonna give the show some new energy.
I'm about to say, it ain't gonna give me new energy.
No, there's nothing that can do that for you now. Not even the lifeblood of the world can do that for you now, Tom.
Oh, you don't even know the amount of caffeine I'm drinking. It does nothing to me now.
We'll get a Corona update from you in a second. I did want to, just real quick, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Now that we are here, episode 150, there are a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. First of all, video game vomit. So we sort of talked about this, I think, last week?
Yes.
Maybe the last week or the week before, where we're like, you know what? Like, we still really want to do video game vomit, blah, blah, blah. It's a thing. It's not dead. I'm literally prepared to do the next one whenever we do it. But what we think we're going to do is, from now on, we think we're going to make it like its own kind of thing. I don't know how.
I mean, I don't know how we're going to release it. It's just going to be maybe like, I mean, I wouldn't mind going back to how we used to do it, like every 4 months or so.
We used to do it like every 3 or 4 months, I think.
Yeah, go back to that, because it'll work out better with just the way the main show's structured now. We usually get a good amount of content with covering the news and whatnot. So it's like, I mean, technically, yeah, if we felt like doing a 2-hour show, honestly, probably be 2.5 hours, honestly.
It depends on the week. I mean, the show, this is the dilemma that we face. And maybe this is something that, if you're a listener and you want to sound off, like in the comments on SoundCloud, or if you want to drop us a line on Facebook or Twitter or something and let us know how you feel about this. This is something that we've kind of struggled with, because we like to keep the show around an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We don't want to take up too much of your time. And there are weeks where it's like, okay, cool, we could have video game vomit this week,
but it would be like an extra hour and a half.
Yeah, it would end up tacking on an extra, significant amount of time to where the show, you're talking about, all of a sudden we're taking up like fucking 2.5, 3 hours of your time. So I don't know. I think it would work from where we're looking at it. We feel like it would work better if we just did it as its own separate show every few months or so. Which I think is probably the way we're going to move forward, unless you guys want us to do it something differently.
Another thing that terrifies me about that is the side shows have definitely taken a hit lately.
Here's the thing about that. So we have plans and schedules for a ton of sideshows that we've been wanting to do.
Yep.
But with the way Todd's been having to work through all this Corona stuff,
Oh.
I'm obviously still in quarantine, but like Todd is working so much and he's so tired and stuff from it that like we just haven't had the time.
It is essentially like when I am home, it's like I'm doing basic human shit that I need to do, and then it's just like crawling back into my bed like a subhuman bastard. It's not
so
good.
I mean, it just all kind of it all coalesced at the same time where it's like, okay, like on the docket right now, we wanted to do a shots on Onward because that's on Disney Plus.
Yep.
We wanted to, we still want to do our Clone Wars series. We wanted to tackle our next Relapse series and get that started. I think all that stuff is still going to happen. We just don't know exactly when.
Yeah.
Because your free time is just sort of like catch as catch can. So I'm not going to make any promises about when any of that stuff is going to happen, but those things are all still happening. The sideshows have taken a back seat just because of all this pandemic bullshit.
Yeah, if you guys want to blame anything, blame the Rona. Blame the Rona for taking everything away from me.
But
except
that
my
stuff
life, which I'd prefer.
But all that stuff will be returning eventually. It's just, it's what I keep telling myself. Because I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, Todd.
Yeah.
The depression is real.
Again,
It's fucking real.
We're both depressed, just for different reasons.
And it's the thing that I keep having to tell myself just to get through my fucking days is just like, you aren't yourself right now. You are not yourself. You are a different version of you. In an extraordinary
hilarious.
Circumstance.
It's you know what? Maybe it's not so different. We've reached these points.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. So that's what I'm saying. It's suffering in different. It's just the same suffering in different ways.
Yeah, it is like, because like, I'll be honest, I don't feel like myself, and honestly, like right now, I think I have there's a stomach flu going on as well. And
that's how it starts, boy.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding.
Well, you gotta realize, the moment I get the Rona, I'm gonna be fucking arm fucking pumping like, woohoo! 2 weeks, let's go. Oh.
Let's get our weekly Corona update. What's going on? How are you holding up?
Well, I'm officially on 2 shots of Death Wish coffee. I kind of do like shots of it into my my travel mug. I do
into my veins.
Into my veins, and I'm still on 2 Reigns Plus as well.
God bless.
And it's to the point now. I mean, obviously, here's the thing: it doesn't really do anything to me. I actually recently, I'm a dealer of the Reign. I've actually dead ass like the other leads overnight. They're like, "Hey, we gotta go see our dealer," and they come to me.
What you got?
So I got that red dragon.
You hold? I got that raging inferno.
I got that true blue. No,
it sounds like fucking strains of marijuana.
I got that strawberry sublime.
Holy shit! It really does. I got that mango mania.
I got that peach fizz. It's pretty bad, but yeah. So fucking. I actually gave one to one of our frozen guy last night. He drank the shit that he drinks. He drinks these like dog shit little like 80 milligrams called like Rip It.
Oh, I've seen those.
They're fucking. I'm like.
That's like nothing though. 80 milligrams.
It's nothing. That's all he drinks. I'm like, how you doing, man? It's time for you to grow up, dude. He was wired as fuck. He's like, dude, that shit hit instant. I'm like, I remember my first time.
Well, when he's used to 80 milligrams, and it's like, here's 300.
No, dude. I'm on 900 minimum a night.
Disgusting.
And here's the thing, like there was at one point I was so fucking tired, exhausted. It was a couple days ago. Is like my fucking my arms like shaking and shit. It's like fucking like doing the full caffeine shakes. But the thing is, that's the only thing that I'm feeling. I'll be honest, I didn't even realize it was shaking. And like I was talking to my manager, And she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, I look at. She's like, "What?" She's like, "Your arm." I look down. I'm like, "Oh, must be the stroke I'm having."
Yeah, no, it's bad. Quarantine. God, I don't even. I think I'm approaching my 3rd week. I think I'm going into week 3.
You know what's funny? You know how
think.
you say time is meaningless.
It
Like,
is.
in a way, it is meaningless for me because dude, my weeks essentially blur together with work now, to the point where I'm just like, I brainlessly, like, and now since I'm not taking public transportation, I don't know if I mentioned that, I'm actually biking now, like, basically every day to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a nice little e-bike, so it's not like the most strenuous fucking thing. But I'm gonna be honest with you, with how tired I am, that itself is actually getting dangerous. I'm actually having to remind myself, because I don't have to pedal this thing, but I'm choosing to,
Just to stay awake.
just to stay awake.
God bless.
Like, that's actually why I've been calling you in the morning when I'm just so tired to like fucking like so tired to pedal. So I just need to like talk to somebody.
I'm usually awake.
Yeah,
for reasons.
Yeah, it works out. That's basically why I usually see if, like, I message you if you're free, then I give you a call on the way home, just so I can like fucking like kind of just stay awake, just to mentally stimulate my mind. Mentally stimulate my mind. That's the most redundant fucking thing I've ever said. God, I'm tired.
Your mind will be stimulated just as your wallet has been stimulated.
Oh yeah, that was something. When that Trump money hits just right.
Wake up this morning to Trump money.
Yeah, it was so good. I was sitting there in the manager's cubicle fucking like last night at the time of this recording, and I was like, I saw people on Snapchat talking about it. I'm like, let me check my shit. I'm like, ooh, baby.
Was in there.
It was definitely in there.
It's one of those things, like we keep saying, I don't really have any like grand plans for it or anything like that. But
it's just nice to look at.
But it is nice to see it in there. I'm not gonna lie.
It is very pretty, and it was just, I definitely had me and you had a few dumbass like little like gifts that we sent to each other.
Yes. So yeah, Trump money's hit. Doesn't help with the depression, but
you're like, I don't have $500. Yes, you do.
Yeah, I was looking. I was looking on I was just killing time waiting to start recording. I was looking at the Blizzard gear store, and they've got this really beautiful enormous 25-inch Diablo 4 Lilith statue. It's $500. And I'm like, ugh, I don't have $500. And I was like, actually, I guess I technically do.
It's that what is that? We all have scimitars from from Aladdin or whatever.
We all got swords. Yeah.
So it's like we all. God, I remember that one popped out when they gave everyone Ashbringer and WoW.
Yes. You idiots! We've all got swords.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, Todd, what have you been playing?
Neo.
Still just Neo, huh?
Well, now I'm doing the Dream of the Strong, just kind of enjoying myself.
The Dream of the Strong, huh? That's the Dream of the Strong is what you could probably subtitle your life right now, living through Corona.
The dream. It's again. All I'm living on is caffeine and a dream, and the caffeine's beginning to fail me.
Now all you have is the Dream of the Strong. So what's that's essentially the name of the New Game Plus?
I mean, it's similar to how Neo 1 handled it. It was called I think it was the Way of the Samurai originally, Way of the Strong, Way of the it just kept on going with dumbass names. So I'm assuming this playthrough is called The Dream, which I'm assuming it plays off the story. It's fine.
Okay.
It does play off the story a little bit. It's everybody's ambitions, dreams, and shit like that.
Anybody are there any big differences?
Yeah, so one of the main things I do love is you don't actually have to do everything in order. It is essentially even starting out, as soon as you start in, you have the first and second zone available to you. I could have just said fuck it, not even done the opening section, and just went straight to the second part of the game and did those. and every single quest is available to you at that point. You can just go boom, 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 boom. And after a certain point, like the next area will be unlocked. But again, you don't have to do these quests in any specific order. The story, it's essentially like, it feels like a little bit like adventure mode in a way. In Diablo 3. Not like exactly, but it's like close enough to where like it's a little more freeform. Like you can kind of like do what you want and whatnot, which I really enjoy. Of course, obviously, it is New Game Plus. So you're going into it with like all your your build, all your soul cores, all that shit. So again, I'm rushing through it now, and I have the final boss's soul core just shitting on things, even though apparently I think it got nerfed. I think they nerfed it a little bit. The thing is, though, it's still like so powerful. Like, here's the thing: I think it has every right to be powerful.
It's like I said, when you basically unlocked them, well, you earned it, right?
Yeah, that's my thing. It is what it is. And then you obviously certain things definitely did get like nerfed pretty, like just balancing shit. They actually did buff something. I definitely thought needed a buff, but it was like so it was the Omnio Magic Mystic art called Awakening, which allows you to like use your magic faster. I'm gonna tell you right now, it was not like it was noticeable. Dude, it was noticeable, but when I first unlocked it, I'm like, is it noticeable? I had to like turn it on and off as I was like checking. I'm like, oh, that's faster. Now it is like it's not where it was, because like Awakening in like Neo 1 was like especially for like self cast stuff, like stuff that you cast on yourself, was essentially like you didn't even do a talisman. It was just instant. It was done. So, but this one you are casting the stuff, but it's like instead of going like pulling the talisman, it's like dropping it. It's like maybe a little less than a second, if not a second. So it is now super noticeable. Buffing like a motherfucker.
I see.
Buffity buff 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 buff.
It's,
Nothing but
is that buffs. So? Is it essentially like you're gonna go through this playthrough and then you're gonna call it, or what?
I don't know.
I don't know when the dream will end.
I don't know where I am as a human being right now.
That's
other
fair.
Than I'm shedding weight. It's falling off me.
It's like I told you, you're losing that joy weight.
It's also I also like to thank the sponsor of this podcast. No, it's just fucking I am drinking Rain Inferno, a thermogenic fuel.
I don't know about all that. I think it's the joy weight.
It's the joy weight. I'm talking shit. For the record, I would get a tattoo on my face of the Rain logo if it gave me a lifetime supply of Rain.
Jesus. It's pretty bad.
You hear that, people? Reach out.
If you guys want to hook that up, I would be happy to support that horrible life decision.
I get the whole thing just on my cheek.
Yeah, as for me, like we touched on earlier, my days revolve around Animal Crossing for the most part. I'm approaching the 200-hour mark.
You sicken me. I'm probably like close enough, like I'm like Neo, so I don't give a shit.
It's pretty bad. So a couple of things happened. So Bunny Day happened, which whatever, fine. Got that over with. I was happy to get that over with, because I'm gonna be real. The sheer amount of eggs that were in the fucking game was really annoying.
Did you get them all?
Oh, I unlocked everything I needed to unlock, yeah. But like the amount of eggs, so like you would be like fishing, and every now and then a fish wouldn't be a fish, it'd be an egg. You would go to chop a tree and it wouldn't drop wood, it would drop an egg, you know? So there's just eggs fucking everywhere. So I'm glad that's over. I'm glad that fucking nightmare is over. It lasted for like 2 weeks. Now, here's the thing though that really fucked me up, was the fishing tournament that happened this past week. I think I told you about that, because we were going to record something that day, but the fishing tournament happened and it basically took control of my entire day when I realized it was going on.
I mean, it was a win-win for me.
Yeah, but I basically just fished nonstop for like 4 hours, And here's the deal. Here's one of my major flaws of this game. This is one of those games where you don't realize the little problems, the little quality of life problems with the game unless you've played it for like 100+ hours. So like, it's one of those things where now that I've played it so fucking much, I'm like, oh my god, this is really annoying. This is a really annoying little thing that I wish they would patch. So for example, so you can make bait, right? You can make bait to go fishing with. The way you do that is you'll see on your beaches, there'll be like these little clams, these manila clams buried in the sand. And they're easy to spot because they shoot water out of the sand and shit. You dig them out and you use those to make bait. Here's the problem. You have to craft them one at a time when you're making the bait. You cannot like mass craft. You have to individually make all of the bait. So if I'm wanting to make like 80 or 100 bait, I'm having to grind and farm the clams off of my beach and then individually craft every single one of them. So bro, I'm sitting there tenderizing my A button, dude. Like my A button is fucked on my Pro Controller. And it got to the point where after putting almost 200 hours in this game, I started to realize that my left stick was starting to drift a little bit. I was like, every now and then I would have an issue where my character would keep walking to the left, or I'd pull up my inventory and I'd have to like fight the stick because it wanted to go to the left, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh fuck. Now granted, my Pro Controller, I've had this Pro Controller since launch of the Switch. So it was like about that time. I've probably put over 1,000 hours of gameplay into this thing. It was probably about that time to replace it anyway. So I decided to go ahead and replace it. I got a new Pro Controller. And I wanted to talk about this real quick because I hit up my buddy Randy, who works at GameStop. And I'm like, hey, Randy, because I couldn't... Dude, you cannot order... Because of the whole coronavirus stuff, ordering a Pro Controller on Amazon was not a thing. Like, that was not a fucking thing. I wouldn't have gotten it until, like, the end of May, I think it was saying. So, that wasn't going to work. So, I hit up my buddy, and I'm like, hey, like, I know you guys are still technically open. Like, what's the deal? Like, how does that work? You know? And essentially what you have to do, the way that GameStop is operating right now, you essentially have to pull up to the store. They've got a big sign on the door that says like, hey, go ahead and like call us. It's got the store's phone number written on it. You call the store and you essentially do the transaction over the phone, and then the associate will like pull the product for you and like actually bring it out to you. So that you're not like you're not going into the store, you're not interacting with any other customers or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting and kind of weird.
There's a lot of things that certain businesses are doing that I'm like, keep these things.
Well, I mean, like, I know it sucks for them because, like, it's not as if they can have any of their, like, trade business or anything like that right now. And that would be awful anyway.
Ugh.
Having people's dirty shit come through the fucking store.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I'm just seeing them, like, either having to sanitize and, you know, masks and gloves and stuff like that between all of it. But anyway, it was just funny. It's always interesting to see people's, like, strategies and the way the strategies kind of change. And I was kind of half expecting them to, like, integrate, like, a Dropbox of some kind. But, I don't know. I don't know if they'd want to go that far. Just interesting to see. GameStop stock, by the way, has been interesting to watch. I've been kind of keeping tabs on the stock market here lately because I've been debating on investing. Now, GameStop is currently at $5.41 a share, and that's actually a pretty. If you actually look at like where it was just a week ago, it was like $2.40, $2.50.
Mm-hmm.
So GameStop actually has had a little bit of a spike this week. It's actually doubled in its share price. I don't know, my buddy Josh, who listens to the show, he actually was like, I made a little bit of money off of GameStop this week, which is surprising. So I don't know. It might be something to think about. I don't know how well GameStop's going to do stock price wise going into the fall, but it's a very cheap stock right now. So might be something to look at if you keep your eyes on that. Anyway, other than that, the big thing I wanted to touch on this week before we move into the news is Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I wanted to give initial thoughts on this. I have not put a ton of time. I've only put about 5 or 6 hours into this so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not super, super far, but especially since by all accounts, this game is like 30 to 40 hours long. So I'm nowhere near through, and I'll update as I go. I definitely want to play more. If Animal Crossing had not arrested me with all of these events this week, I would have spent some more time with Final Fantasy VII. But I'm very, very impressed with the remake so far. I loved the demo. The full game definitely lives up to the hype. It's really fucking crazy. Like I have to like rub my eyes every now and then and just like realize what it is I'm actually playing. It's crazy. I'm like, I can't believe this game is fucking real. Like, it's so weird. If I could go back in time and tell myself, I think of this in two different ways. If I could go back in time and tell like, you know, like 16, 17-year-old Seth, like watching Advent Children, I'm like, hey, one day you're going to play a full remake of Final Fantasy VII and the game is going to look better than this movie does. Like, I don't know what I would think. And then like going back in time and if I could talk to myself playing Final Fantasy VII on my friend Justin's PS1, just being like, man, like it's crazy. It's just crazy. I can't believe it exists. What's really interesting about this, now, I think I talked about when I played the demo, I talked about how much I love the combat. And the combat in the final game, especially as you add more characters to your party, is even better. Like, it's actually better the deeper the combat goes. To where I would almost recommend this game to you, Todd. Like, I would almost recommend that you play this.
No.
Maybe if it goes on sale or something like that. Because, like, I think you would like the combat. I really do. I think you'd enjoy it. It's got an interesting combat system. It's got a really nice balance between, like, the hack and slash style and the, like, kind of, like, more methodical, strategic kind of, like, flair to it. Like, Dan, we talk about Dan all the time on the show here. He asked me, he's like, do you think this would be a good Final Fantasy to be my first one?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I was like, in a way, yes.
Hey, you tell Dan that he should not be thinking about any other game right now. He has other shit.
Well, only game he's playing right now is Call of Duty anyway.
Oh, yeah, I know that, but guess what? He should be thinking about some other games. Motherfucker's got Uncharted. He's not allowed to play anything until he beats Uncharted fucking 4.
But I was telling him, I was like, I'm torn between either recommending this or 15, because 15 has a really, like, 15 essentially is a hack and slash. There's almost no strategy to 15's combat, which is fine. But 7's story is just so much better. And just I don't know, like, I'm just super impressed with the way they've handled this game. Like, it is not a straight remake. Like, the thing that I think a lot of people were worried about, especially fans of the original, they're like, fuck, like, this is just going to be the same story, and they're either going to follow it to a T, which would be boring, or they're going to cut things out and fuck it up, right? What they ended up doing here is something completely different, where this game really should be, it's called Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it really should be treated as its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like entirely separate. This first part is entirely in Midgar, which the Midgar portion of the original Final Fantasy VII, you're there for 6 to 8 hours tops. And they've turned it into a 30 to 40 hour game. So that's, you know, that's one way of looking at it. But again, it's not a 1-to-1 remake. It's definitely like its own thing. So it's kind of hard to base your thoughts off of that. I really like what they're doing with the story here. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will tell you that if you're coming into this as a fan of the original, there's still plenty of things to be surprised about. Expect the unexpected. The game makes it clear very early on that this is not going to be a 1-to-1 remake of Final Fantasy VII. So, to the point where it honestly wouldn't shock me if like major story beats from Final Fantasy VII get changed in significant ways, or if they add like further context to it. Now, I've already seen some discourse, and maybe I'll talk with you about this off mic because I know you don't really give a shit about the spoilers. But I've seen some discourse already from people who have beaten the game, and they're like, I don't know if I like the way this is going. But me personally, I think it's pretty brilliant what they're doing with this. But again, story-wise, really consider this its own thing. Don't just come into it thinking about the original the entire time. It's really, the game is improved based on your knowledge of the original, but don't come into it expecting it to be a 1-to-1 remake of the original, and I think you'll have a good time. I gotta shout out the soundtrack. They have done such an amazing job with the soundtrack, and it really goes back to, as I'm playing it, it's just reminding me of how fucking phenomenal that original Nobuo Uematsu soundtrack for the original game is. And just to hear them like reworked and reorchestrated, and like they've kind of gone hard in the paint, as it were, with the soundtrack in this game, where they will play like the Midgar theme, that Final Fantasy VII theme, like kind of subtly in the background, even just as you're playing it. There's always some sort of musical something going on. Like they're like, we know we have an amazing soundtrack. We know you love this game and this game's soundtrack. So let's just let you marinate in it. You know what I mean? And so it just, the production values are out of this fucking world. Like, this is a fucking full course, like full bore, nonstop. Like we put all of our money into this. It looks amazing. It sounds amazing. It runs really well. There's no like technical issues or anything like that. The combat is like really interesting, and I can't say enough good things about it. I'm so impressed with it so far. I can't wait to play more. I'm just in love with the treatment they've done here, and again, it really needs to be considered its own thing. I struggle to call it a remake, even though that's what they're calling it. It really is like a complete reimagining of Final Fantasy VII. But anyway, maybe I'll have more thoughts as I get deeper and play more. But just in the first, like I said, I put maybe 5-6 hours into it so far, and initial impressions, I'm like super impressed. They've really done an amazing job with this remake, and I'll tell you what, probably the spoiler of all spoilers, the 20+ year spoiler, Aerith's death. You know, that's that classic Sephiroth killing Aerith moment in Final Fantasy VII. I am not prepared to see that happen with these graphics. I am not emotionally prepared to see that happen with these like more realistic graphics, and like and just like the way that they've characterized, the way that FF7 Remake really spends this extra time. Like I said, Midgard in the original is only like 6 to 8 hours, and now you're really getting a chance to get to know the area.
Yeah, to like marinate in it. Yeah.
Really getting to know the characters of the area, and like they've done a really good job of making you like of like getting into the like kind of politics and the sort of slums and shit of this area, and like because you know the way the game opens, the game straight up opens with you being involved in what is ostensibly a terrorist act. And the game really, in a way that the original did not, the game, and it's for a good cause, ultimately, but, like, the game really kind of makes you feel, this one, in a way the original didn't, the game really is making you feel, like, the repercussions of it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, even though, like, you've done an ostensibly good thing for a good cause against an evil corporation, like, the way that it is affecting the common citizen, it's like, maybe I'm not the good guy kind of thing, you know? So it's really, really interesting that just being able to just really go balls deep in Midgard is a pleasure. I know they're releasing these things like episodically. I know this is only like part 1, essentially. Who knows what tact they're going to have for like the future versions of this, the future parts, but so far, super, super impressed with part 1, and I can't wait to play more. But that's, that's been about it for me. I'll say this. I did re-download The Messenger, and I'm playing through that again. Because I think either last week or the week before, I talked about the Sea of Stars Kickstarter. and that's wrapping up now. And I've been kind of jonesing to play The Messenger again as a result, because it's in the same universe, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of fooling with that. That game is super, super good. Still, like it's super, super good. I highly recommend that game to anybody who wants to play it. I think it actually might be on sale right now, even so, on the eShop. So again, really, really good game. I've been kind of fooling around with that, playing through that game again.
Did I mention the Call of Duty at all? Season 3 is a thing.
Have they added anything?
Yeah, new weapons.
Nothing really worth talking about.
I mean, I know I'm excited. I just need to find the time to actually unlock the shit for the weapons.
That good old battle pass.
Well, I won't lie to you. I bought into that shit up to the point where I had all the weapons. I don't give a fuck. I got
you
that
just
money.
said fuck it.
I got that hero pay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Trump bought that for you. We'll just say
no,
that.
I mean Kroger bought that shit for me. So they actually added. I called it from the moment I saw the pistol. They're calling it the Renetti, right? And I'm like, 9mm. I'm looking at it. I'm like, all right, I know what your deal is. And I'm reading like at the description. It's like, oh, really cool shit in the gunsmith. And I'm essentially, I don't remember exactly, but it was essentially that, like, really cool shit in the gunsmith. And I'm like, all right, let me look through the battle pass to see if I could find a blueprint for the Renetti to see what the cool shit is. That's usually how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's the Rafficas, baby. The Rafficas. The triple bursts pistols. They're back. And I'm excited.
Be playing a little more Call of Duty.
Well, I need to find the time to jump on there and do it, because leveling up pistols is not fun. And I don't know how deep in I have to be in for the burst. And from what I'm hearing, they're OP as shit. Especially Akimbo. They're pretty OP. Like a lot of people are saying that they wouldn't be surprised if the Akimbo's a perk right now, right? They wouldn't be surprised if they make the burst a perk instead of a muzzle attachment or some shit, whatever it is. Because doing the burst with the Akimbo, it's I think technically, like just statistically, the best handgun in the game. And I mean, they added the SKS too, and I guess it's supposed to do something cool too. I just don't know. I didn't do my research enough. And they also added a new operator, which I wouldn't say it's a new character. They brought our boy from the campaign, Alex.
Oh, okay.
I guess he survived because he now has a prosthetic leg.
Well, I mean, that's cool. I mean, it's cool that they're going to be supporting that game for a while.
I'll be honest. I feel like Season 3 came fast. I was like, shit. Or maybe it's just my days have just disappeared. I don't know. Because it's just like, I thought Season 2 was still going to be going on for a little bit. And then I'm like, maybe it's just been that long. And I just don't realize.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't even remember when Season 2 was a thing. I dead ass don't remember. I stopped kind of keeping up with Call of Duty. It just takes up too much hard drive space.
Well, yeah, the only reason I knew is it's like I jumped on my PlayStation. It's like, can't download. Not enough storage space. I'm like, what?
God bless. Enjoy that shit. Yeah, this single game takes up half of your hard drive.
Like 200 gigs at this point. It is. It has to be like 200 gigs.
It's bad, dude.
It's disgusting, actually.
I'm over it. Anyway, we've got
the news.
We've got some news. Nothing too huge this week. Couple of little morsels here that I think are interesting. So, I want to start in the news here. I want to talk about Cooking Mama.
What the fuck? Okay, I that is not the first time that I've heard that shit lately. Why is Cooking Mama a thing right now?
Okay, so you're familiar with the Cooking Mama series?
I played the shit out of the Cooking Mama series a little
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
On what? On like DS?
DS, and I think they had another one on I definitely played.
There's
on
one
DS.
on Wii.
I think I played the one on Wii too.
Yeah, it's a fairly popular series. Anyway, the latest one is coming under fire right now because they're making one for Switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it actually went up, like it was available on the Switch eShop at the end of March, and after like a few hours, they delisted it from the eShop and took all of its listings from online retailers away.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, what the fuck? So like the physical copies became basically impossible to find. Basically, the only way you could get one is from retailers who like already had their shipments in of the physical copy. And essentially what happened was, I guess Office Create, which is the name of the, it's a Japanese company that created and owns the IP, says that this game was released in an unauthorized manner.
What?
Yeah, so it started off, they're like, okay, it's a delay because of COVID or whatever. No big deal. Then there were rumors that there was illicit cryptocurrency software running in the background of the game. So it's like, wait, what? And then the company behind it says, no, it's not either of those things. It's that the game just isn't good. They're like, basically, we told the publisher not to release the game because it was not at the quality that we wanted, but the publisher basically released it anyway. So they essentially knew the game wasn't good. It was not up to their quality standard, and then the publisher just released it regardless. They didn't give a shit. So it was a complete like breach of contract. And it's funny because those copies are like out in the wild. I think IGN actually got a hold of one and reviewed it, and they gave it like a 3 or something like that. So it sounds like there's no like conspiracy or anything like that. It really was just not ready to go, and that's why they were trying to avoid it getting out there. But it's now become kind of a collector's item. I think it went up online on some sort of like website where you could buy a physical copy at one point, and it like immediately sold out. It's like a collector's item now. Another game that is essentially a collector's item now is Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics 2020.
Oh God.
Because there no longer is a 2020 Olympics. So it's essentially a game based on a real world event that is no longer happening. So it's become one of those collector's items now too. So yeah, that's how you get Cooking Mama in the news these days. It's like just a random thing. It's funny how things like that slip through the cracks. I remember working at GameStop. I remember every now and then we would get like publisher recalls.
Yeah.
And it would be for various reasons, either like, oh, this happened or that happened. I remember, I'll give you a couple of examples. One publisher recall we had was when they released Okami on the Wii. Okay, the box art that they used was actually just lifted from IGN, like a photo they had on IGN, to where the fucking IGN watermark was on the box. Yes. On the bottom right of the box, there was the IGN watermark on the image that they used. They just lifted a fucking image from IGN and printed it, basically. So funny. So there was a recall for that. They there was a recall. There was some Naruto game for like 3DS that they recalled because there was a typo on the spine. On the spine of the case, it said like Naruto. So funny. And these things become instant collector's items. I had people coming in asking if they could buy the fucking Naruto game, you know?
That's so good.
And they become instant collector's items. People love these like fuck ups or like games that shouldn't exist or whatever, you know? So anyway, speaking of Nintendo, the Nintendo Switch was updated to system firmware version 10.0 this week. Brought with it a few interesting new features. Possibly the biggest feature is the ability to remap your controller, which is a big leap for player accessibility. So by accessing, you can go into the controller settings, you can actually remap the thumbsticks, you can remap the buttons, and you can actually even disable buttons if you want to.
Really?
Yeah, so there are a lot of people who, like, they get frustrated because they'll accidentally take screen captures all the time and stuff. Yeah. If you want to, you can just disable that shit now. which is kind of nice. You can actually save like 5 preset button maps also that you can switch to at any time. So there are people who one good example of this, of how this can improve games, for whatever reason, when they ported Dark Souls to Switch, right? The first Dark Souls game available on Switch, for any Switch game, the sort of confirm or action button, it's always A. On every Switch game, it's always A. Well, for whatever reason, for Dark Souls on Switch, it's B. So they mapped it exactly how it would be on Xbox or PlayStation, where the bottom button is to confirm or to use an action or whatever. But they did not. They should have switched it for Switch because it's different for Switch, and they didn't. They just did a lazy straight port. And so now you can actually change those buttons around and make it feel right on a Switch controller. Another thing you can finally do is you can finally sprint and jump at the same time in Breath of the Wild, which was kind of impossible to do before.
Yeah. So
you can remap stuff like that. There's a bunch of little things that people are finding where you can remap the buttons to make your gameplay experience a little bit better. And you can save those presets and just jump into that whenever you're playing those games. It's pretty nice, pretty seamless. There's a couple other like minor features of this update. So you can now transfer save data between the system memory and the SD card, which is not, I didn't even realize that you couldn't do that before, but apparently you couldn't. You can now bookmark news items. So if you go into your news feed on Switch, you see something you want to come back to later, you can bookmark it and look at your bookmarks. And they also added 6 new Animal Crossing themed avatars that you can use nice. For your they usually add new avatars with the new firmware updates. So got some Animal Crossing avatars now. So talking about some PlayStation stuff, this might interest you. PlayStation announced a new Play at Home initiative this week that will offer a $10 million creative fund for independent developers suffering from the effects of COVID-19, as well as offering 2 free digital games to all PSN users. So the free games in question are Uncharted, the Nathan Drake Collection, and Journey. And those will be made freely available from April 15th to May 5th. It's also worth noting that Uncharted 4 is actually one of the free PS Plus games for April. So you could quite literally get the entire Uncharted series for free this month on your PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
You could literally, get your free copy of Nathan Drake Collection, get your free copy of Uncharted 4, and you're set. So that's pretty cool. It would have saved you some money if this was around when you were playing Uncharted, Todd.
True. Very true.
Obviously, we're both big fans of the Uncharted series. Well worth your time. And look, that's 4 games that will take you... That'll take up about... Even if you did nothing but play those games, I mean... Playing through those 4 games would still probably eat up like a week.
Yeah, if you're playing it on like normal, not crushing like you.
Oh, don't do that. Make like a like a 10 to 12 hour Uncharted 4 and make it into like a 30-hour Uncharted 4.
So I'm like, fuck all that noise.
And I played it on crushing with like no cheats, no nothing. I did it legit.
You did it like a man. I respect it.
I did it like a man. And also, Journey is a great game. I don't know if you ever played Journey or not. It's really good.
Never played it, but I do. I mean, I never played it, but I do know the deal.
Yeah, it's a really powerful game. That game is it's short, but again, it's just one of those uniquely like PlayStation experiences that like it really is unlike. I never played anything quite like Journey. So I definitely recommend picking those up. Even actually, I had this thought, even if you're not necessarily a PS4 owner at the moment, like if you're like one of those people where you're like, look, I don't have a PS4, I'm just gonna wait and pick up a PS5, it actually might be worth going ahead and making your PSN account and then like just logging onto the website and grabbing those games, like adding their licenses to your account, because that way when these games will almost certainly, these are 2 major PlayStation games, they will almost certainly be backwards compatibility functional on PS5. So that way, when you do get a PS5, you've got those games just ready to go,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I might go ahead and recommend that. Also, even if you don't have a PS4 necessarily yet, and you're planning on getting a PS5, So, I don't know, just a thought. I know that's a little niche, but that's just a thought that I had. So this is interesting. I'm curious what you think about this. So earlier this week, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB, announced a new ratings description that they have developed for games with loot boxes.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So, Todd, they've been talking about this for a long time. As you know, there have been long-standing debates. I think there are even like Supreme Court trials over this. Over how games should indicate that they include microtransactions. How games should indicate that they have like randomization elements as they apply to real-world money, essentially. So like, how should games tackle this? Is it, should it be considered gambling, blah, blah, blah. All this discourse, right? And so as of 2018, actually, the SRB has been adding a descriptor to games with microtransactions, and basically it states in-game purchases is what it says.
It's in parentheses, includes random items.
So yes, so now that's the new thing. Yeah. The new thing is now the ESRB will say will be adding includes random items to the game.
I mean, yeah.
So yeah, if there's a game where there's like an item the player can buy in game that has a randomly generated element like a loot box, they will have that moniker on them now.
I mean, like, what can I say other than like cool?
I think this is the sort of thing that needs to be disclosed.
No, it definitely does. I mean, like, because you know how I feel about loot boxes.
Yeah.
They're a dangerous game for me.
Yes, they are.
I mean, granted, I don't really do it as much, but it's a dangerous game.
Here's how I feel about this. The ESRB in general is a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, it's a good thing for many reasons. A, take it from somebody who worked in video game retail for almost a decade. Like, we actually utilize the ESRB a lot. And it actually, for parents who actually give a shit about the media that their children are consuming, which admittedly is a depressingly low number, the amount of times I would just, like, have to, because we would, if a parent was buying a mature rated game for their kid, we'd have to let them know what it was rated mature for.
Yeah. And
the amount of times, like, the parent would just be like, I'd be like, Grand Theft Auto 5, it's rated M for mature for, like, fucking, violence and, foul language and, this and that, just a fucking laundry list of shit that GTA has in it. Oh, they see worse things on TV. Whatever. And they would just write it off. But there are some parents that actually legitimately care, and the ESRB rating helps them with that. And then, like, it's also nice to be knowledgeable about the games in question because, like, for example, I had a mom who came in really regularly with her son. It was really weird for a full circle moment, actually, because her son, after I left, ended up working at the store that I would sell games to him to when he was a kid.
Oh, so that's funny.
I'm
and also,
fucking,
you're old.
I'm old as fuck, dude. I'm so fucking old. My sister's dating a guy right now who's like, oh, dude, like, I used to buy games from you when I was like 10. Like, oh my god. And just
like, that, like, did you die a little inside?
It was like that episode, the early episode of Steven Universe where he was just getting progressively older. That's basically what it was. You would just see the fucking wrinkles form on my face. My hair gets
like that.
Yeah, my hair just gets a shock white streak running through it. But she would come and she would be like, "Hey, like, I think it was a copy of like Mass Effect," and she was like, "I know this is rated M, but so is like Halo. You know what I mean? Like Halo's rated M, but it's not really that bad."
Yeah.
So I would just tell her, I'm like, Mass Effect, I think, was the game in question. And I was like, yeah, it is similar to Halo. It's not super, super bad. There is like some optional sex scenes. Be wary of that. But other than that, I don't think Mass Effect is any worse than Halo.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. The ESRB is really, really good for stuff like that. It is good to inform parents. And also, just at a granular level, you guys need to keep in mind that the ESRB is the only thing between video games and the government. So the ESRB is what keeps the government out of video games. And the government is famously ignorant. And they don't know a damn thing about video games. and they don't care to know a damn thing about video games. As far as they know, this is the video games doom, Columbine, like violent video games. It makes kids violent. Like, that's what they think about video games. So you want the ESRB to keep them away from video games, right? ESRB is a great thing. And I think adding this moniker is a great thing. The ESRB says here, they say, quote, in-game purchases includes random items will be assigned to all games that include purchases with any randomized elements, including loot boxes, gacha games, item or card packs, prize wheels, treasure chests, and more. They say games that have the in-game purchases includes random items notice may also include other non-randomized paid elements. So, by the way, can I just say real quick though that I'm glad they're doing this, but I almost feel like it's like too late. Because think about it, a lot of people have just sidestepped this now by incorporating Battle Pass. That's an instant sidestep to the whole random element thing. It's not loot boxes anymore, it's a Battle Pass.
I mean, the Battle Pass is like, yeah, you could. Here's the thing with the Battle Pass that I respect. If you really don't give a shit, you could legitimately buy that whole thing. Thing. Spend money on it completely. Or you can earn it, which is like why I actively like Battle Pass. I support the shit out of Battle Passes. I don't give a fuck.
I think Battle Pass is a much better alternative than loot boxes. It's actually gotten to the point now where, especially in the wake of like Battlefront 2 and how that whole controversy when that game first came out, you know, but like loot boxes are kind of rare now. Like almost everybody has adapted a Battle Pass strategy. It's kind of rare to see loot boxes.
Like I honestly wouldn't be surprised if like Overwatch 2 does like a Battle Pass.
I really think it would be pretty tone deaf if they just bring loot boxes into Overwatch 2. I mean, everybody's doing Battle Pass now. Dude, get with it.
Get with the times, old man. No.
The future's now, old man. So I think it's cool. I think a lot of people have already found ways to sidestep this, but it's cool that they're finally sort of getting on board. It'll be good for parents, you know, blah, blah, blah. This is good news. So final thing, this is the wrap up news bit here. But so I normally save the best for last here, the kind of big one for last, so we can kind of the one that I think will get the most juice out of. And this one, Todd, another week, another Resident Evil story.
Oh Lord.
I feel like every fucking week Resident Evil is in the news. I'm getting sick of it. But this was a big one. I could not deny this. So we got the recent remakes of Resident Evil 2. We just got Resident Evil 3.
Yes.
And it sounds like Resident Evil 4 is next. So
did we not talk about this, or was it off recording?
We talked about this a little bit off recording.
Is that the deal? Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest, my shit blurs, man. All right, let's go.
Yeah, so basically this is reported by VGC. They say full remake of Resident Evil 4. It's entered full production with an estimated 2022 release window. So we talked about Resident Evil 8. I think that was either last week or the week before. I don't know. It blurs. Time is meaningless. But that's supposedly going to be releasing early next year. So with that happening, if this comes out in 2022, it sort of follows that annual trajectory that I talked about. I'm like, I feel like Resident Evil is kind of slowly becoming an annualized series, and this sort of proves it. So that's a thing now. But VGC reports that development is being headed by new studio M2, relatively new. This studio helped with the RE3 remake.
Okay.
And apparently they were like, there's a bunch of like ex-Platinum developers, I guess, that make up M2, and they were like, hey, let's have you work on the RE3 remake, and that'll kind of be your proving ground to see if you know what you're doing. So, RE3 remake came out. You know, some people loved it. Some people are like, whatever about it. It's definitely, I feel like, more mixed than the RE2 remake was. I feel like the RE2 remake was kind of more universally loved. I don't know. I haven't played 3 or 2.
What are like? I really haven't. I know it's been mixed, but like, what are the motherfuckers like that are hating on it? Like, what are they bitching about?
I think what it is I think I'm hearing that there's like just certain things that didn't make the cut, like a lot of cut content and stuff. It's really short. It's it just doesn't. I don't know. Like it feels like they aren't willing to go like whole hog with it. Like it's almost like Capcom is like, hey, we have like a really high budget and we have like this great, graphical engine. The games look and sound beautiful.
No, they look fucking gorgeous. Like absolutely gorgeous.
And they put a lot of development resources into kind of retooling these games and the new like control, schemes and the motion capture and stuff like that. From what I understand, 3 kind of feels like they're like, okay, we have all this budget, but we can't make it a full-blown huge game. And maybe part of that is also because they included that multiplayer mode. I don't know.
Is there a multiplayer mode?
Yeah, there's like I don't even remember what it's called, but yeah, there's like a multiplayer element to it.
Why would they do that?
So I mean, I don't know. It's not. I haven't bought the game. I have RE2 and I would like to play it one day, but I haven't even touched RE3 remake either. So, but a lot of people are kind of like lukewarm about it. There's some people who love it. I mean, I don't know, but apparently the RE4 remake has actually been in pre-production since 2018. So they've actually been kind of like slowly ramping up for this for a while now. And it sounds like Capcom is actually kind of pulling in other devs from its stable. Like they're getting like, hey, let's take a few people from the Devil May Cry team. Let's take some people from the RE2 remake team, and let's have this new studio M2, and those people all together are working on the RE4 remake. So according to VGC, the RE4 remake also has got the blessing of the game's original director, Shinji Mikami, legendary video game director, Shinji Mikami. He said that apparently they gave Mikami the opportunity to come back and direct the remake, but he declined. And he instead offered his blessing and gave some advice to the development team. So, here's my thing with this. I don't know that this is necessary. This one feels weird to me. The RE2 and 3 are a little bit different. These games are a lot older than RE4 is.
I think once you finally get out of... Like Resident Evil 2 and 3 were pretty like similar with those, like the way those games played with like the shitty camera angles, correct?
Yes.
Like Resident Evil 4 is kind of where that shit it was. I'm not gonna say it was the more modern take of Resident Evil for the most part.
Yeah, and it's also, by the way, I mean, this is Capcom's highest rated game of all time. I mean you got
that's another. That's the reason why they're doing it. It's free real estate.
It is, but I mean, this game, it's also a double-edged sword where, like, if you fuck it up...
Oh, no, if you fuck it up, I do remember that we did talk about this. That game is I've never actually played Resident Evil 4, which maybe I'll actually say fuck it and play it if they do a remake.
Yeah.
But it's also, as you said off recording, it's sacred ground.
It really is.
So if it's dog shit, if they fuck it up, oof.
It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be hard to justify it if they fuck it up. Now, yeah, highest rated game of all time. I pulled up here. It's over its lifetime. It's sold almost 8 million copies across all platforms. They've released this game like 1 million times, and I've bought it almost every time because I'm an idiot. I love Resident Evil 4. I have a strong adoration for Resident Evil 4. I had not played it in many, many years. Actually, the last time that I did a full playthrough of Resident Evil 4 was back on Wii. In like 2007 or 8, I think, they released Resident Evil 4 on Wii, and I loved it because I loved what they did with the motion controls. It made that game so much better to play. And so I bought the Switch version, and actually, after this news broke about the Resident Evil 4 remake, I was like, you know what? Let me dive into the Switch version and just see how it holds up. You know what I mean? I just want to see how the game holds up. And, it's funny because I do think that there's an opportunity here to mess with the controls in particular, because Resident Evil 4 still very much uses those tank controls, and it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around, especially with modern sensibilities. And I think a lot of like RE4 diehards would say like, oh no, that's part of it. You can't change that. That's part of the experience. It makes it so much more tense because of the tank controls and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not necessarily so precious about the controls. I think you could modernize the controls. But the thing that I'm really concerned about, going back to what we just talked about with RE3, right? where they cut content. Maybe the budget couldn't go that far, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You can't really cut content with RE4. And if you do, you're going to catch shit. You got to give us the full experience. And by the way, RE4, that game is 16 to 20 hours. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they really have to go fucking hard with this remake if they want it to be successful. And I would like to think that Capcom knows that. I would like to think that
Hopefully.
Capcom is smart enough to know. And with the game being in pre-production for this long, I mean...
Yeah, here's the other thing. I think with the backlash from Resident Evil 3, they might, kind of hey.
You need to really take your time with this, man. You have to, like, really take your time with it. And another thing that I'm worried about, so from what I understand, they are kind of taking, like, a narrative through line and making the games narratively connect a little bit more.
Okay. Between
2 and 3. And if you put too much of that in 4, that's also going to kind of tarnish the experience, because such a fundamental part of 4 is that it feels very isolated.
Yeah.
It's just you and the president's daughter, right? Ashley or whatever her name is. It's very like, I don't know, it's a very isolated experience, and I don't want to have the outside influence of whatever narrative seeds they're planting in 2 and 3 to sort of get into 4. 4 should kind of be its own thing a little bit. I don't know. We'll have to see what they do. I get the sense that this feels like an unnecessary remake that is just gonna cause problems. I think the fans are gonna decimate this thing when it comes out. I mean, this is the highest rated Capcom game of all time, and you guys are coming back to it, and I don't know if it's a good idea.
See, in their mind, you already know it's like all that free money.
That Trump money. But I don't know. I have an open mind to it. I think that Resident Evil 4 is, has a great story and like great moments and stuff like that, but you just cannot fuck with it. Like, you really can't. And there's such an iconic moment right there at the beginning of Resident Evil 4. There's such an iconic moment where you come up to this, shit goes south really, really quickly in Resident Evil 4. And you come up to this like kind of town where they're like, they're like killing people and burning them at the stake, and they're just these crazy motherfuckers. And it's like, there's like fucking like 30 of them there in the center of town. And you can't do anything about it. Like, you could, if you wanted to like sit there with your little 10 bullets, try to take them all out. You could try. It ain't gonna work. So what you have to do is you kind of have to sneak around and learn to like run and dart through the enemies and stuff like that, and kind of escape, realizing that you can't take them all on. And I'm just like, that's the sort of shit that I could totally see them in like a modern remake toning down. I could totally see them taking a moment like that and making it not as terrifying as it was.
That'd be bullshit.
Like, that's the sort of thing where it's like, in a modern remake, they'd be like, oh, we have like, 10 dudes there. And if you wanted, you could probably take them on. It's shit like that I'm worried about. And by the way, the one thing that absolutely must be in this remake, this is how I'll know that the remake is shitty, all right? You ready for this? In the beginning of RE4, there is a dog who gets trapped in a bear trap, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you can choose to save this dog and help him out. And then if you do, later on, he appears and helps you out in a boss fight.
Really?
Okay? Yes. If the dog is not in RE4 Remake, the remake is trash immediately.
You heard it here, folks.
Look out for the dog in the beginning of the game. If there is no dog, then you can take it right back to GameStop, delete it from your hard drive, whatever you want. Because that right there will be my clear indication. If there's no dog in Resident Evil 4 Remake, the remake is immediately bullshit. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I would be curious to see how you would feel about playing Resident Evil 4 in its original form. I wonder if you would be able to suffer through the controls.
No, I can't. I can't do it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to. See, me, I can sort of... I've played it like that before, so I'm kind of like... But it'd be interesting to see somebody who's never played a game like that play it.
I can't do it. I know myself.
I think you would just get too frustrated. But there is something to that, though. I mean, there are people who are like, oh, that's part of it. The shitty controls are part of it. I have a hard time. Like, on one hand, I feel like the controls should be modernized. On the other hand, I have a hard time disputing it because that is kind of part of it.
Yeah, I can see it from both sides.
I can too. I definitely can. I'm just like at a certain point, I'm like, I don't want you to touch it too much. And then at the same time, if you're not touching it too much, then why are you remaking it all? Just whatever. Anyway, that's what I got for you this week, Todd. You got anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Everybody enjoy that Trump money if you're American.
Enjoy that Trump money.
I do know there's some people that are probably not going to get it for a while that don't have that direct deposit.
Yeah, so from what I understand is based on your most recent tax filing, if you don't have direct deposit, you're going to have to get a paper check that's not going to be sent out until I think May. So yeah, it's I think a lot of people probably got it already like we did, but if you're going the paper route, you're going to be waiting a little bit. But for now, Trump money.
Trump money.
All right, guys. We will catch you next week. Thanks for listening. Get fucking dunked on. Bye.
See ya.